So I read The Lamb by Lucy Rose, and I've got to say, I was a bit disappointed. Now, Lucy, if you are watching this, and that's entirely possible, we are mutuals, I don't give any book special treatment. You know that about me. I like you, I like other things that you've written, but for a number of reasons, this just wasn't to my personal taste, and I'll explain. Our story revolves around Ruth and Margot, a mother daughter duo who live in the woods. They are both cannibals. They wait for unsuspecting people that they call strays to get lost in their neighborhood so that they can invite them in, poison them, eat them. Very simple. Unfortunately, the book doesn't seem to want to go in any other direction after that. The first 100 pages, we're eating people. Cool. 200 pages, we're still eating people. Fine. 300 pages, we're still eating people. I need something else. Just any kind of driving factor, any kind of development. It was just a lot of the same for me, which when I think of cannibalism in other books, there's usually a take. People don't spontaneously decide to eat other people. So this whole thing just felt a bit random. Like in Tender is the Flesh, a very popular book about cannibalism, that is a speculative world where all the meat has gone bad, and so people are left with no alternative. If they want meat, they have to eat one another. And we get like human abattoirs and all of this other really creepy but really thought-provoking sci-fi dystopian stuff. In Stephen King's Survivor Type, that story follows a doctor who gets stranded on a desert island and he has to start eating himself to survive. In Michael Grant's Gone series, the kids that are stuck under that dome start eating one another because they are starving. All of the food has run out. So in every single one of these situations, cannibalism, it's not nice, it's in fact horrifying, but there's motivation behind it. You know, people are either pushed, it's usually the case where it's a last resort. They have nothing else. And so this, it just felt a bit like, why? You know, why? Because the story is sapphic and there's those feminist undertones, I would have enjoyed it a lot more if it had been like a women's revenge sort of thing, where, because the characters sort of reflect on the terrible things that men have done to them. If they had exclusively eaten men, maybe it's like a honey trap situation. Maybe the daughter is like luring these perverted men into their orbit by sort of like enticing them and preying on like what they're attracted to, only to then kill them, feed them to her mum. Like at least then I get the sense that there's purpose to this. Otherwise, it's just a lot of eating people in the woods. Something that I've noticed, especially in social media books, that's quite commonplace now, is this almost sort of postmodern decision to not really have a plot, where it's more about the atmosphere of the story and the vibes. So if you're someone who loves that kind of thing, I'm thinking like Mona Awad's Bunny, I'm thinking like ML Rio's If We Were Villains. You might get on with a book like this because it has that sort of transient, we're just drifting through the story, we're not actually engaging in like a 3-act structure. So I could see you liking it, but me personally, I need something to hold on to. I need stakes, I need a climax, I need takeaways. There's not enough going on, there's not enough moving pieces for me. Oh, and random, there was a lot of shade thrown at pasta shells. Lucy, what is wrong with pasta shells? So this family, this mother and daughter, when they can't find a victim to kill and eat, they have to eat like basic rations, of course. And it was pasta shells. A lot of shade towards pasta shells. I was like, I'll have you know, you fill those up with some ricotta and some chopped tomatoes, you cook them up. Lovely. Lovely dinner. I mean, it's no human flesh, but like, come on, pasta shells. Who doesn't love a pasta shell? I wanted to visit this family and convince them about the joy of pasta shells. We haven't talked about Eden. So at some point in the book, a third woman comes into the story. Her name is Eden. We don't really get an explanation of like who she is, where she's from, like what's her point. She's kind of just a catalyst for change in the story because the daughter then feels pushed out of this relationship with her mother. She gets quite jealous of Eden because Eden and Ruth have this relationship with one another where they're quite intimate. And I was here for it actually. It felt like something was finally happening in the story, but it also never really went anywhere. Like, without spoiling the ending of the book, it just feels a bit like you could pull out the middle 250 pages. Like, if you just read the first chapters and the last chapters, you'd be fine, which it just feels unnecessary, especially for a debut. Like, I think this would have been a lot more successful as a short story and a lot more exciting as well, because that concept is exhilarating to a point. Like, you can't let it go redundant, and I'm afraid that's kind of what happens here. I thought the back and forth with the bus driver was nice. So this girl, it confused me as well why she was even going to school. It seems like a community like this, she would just be homeschooled. But no, she goes to a public school, and every morning, because she's like the weird kid that nobody likes, she has this rapport with the bus driver, and we get a lot of chapters where it's just them two talking, and he's kind of like safeguarding her. But he never ends up like really saving her. Like, I wish he had been more involved in the final acts of the story so that he actually felt like he had a point. There was just a lot of things in this that didn't either feel based in reality or like pointless. Like, especially in this day and age, the story doesn't really give us a timeline of like, is this modern day? But if it is, people who get lost are much more easily found nowadays. I guess like in the north of England where there's lots of forest, it's more plausible. But these people have phones. Like, how are we disposing of this tech? How are we making sure they don't leave a digital footprint? I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be dissecting it, but when you give me a story in these terms, that is automatically what I think of. So would I recommend The Lamb? Sadly not. I love this author, of course, I still will. I'll probably read your next book, Lucy. But for me, this is repetitious, it meanders. It outstays its welcome. There's too many other cannibalism stories that really get into the minutiae of the why and the real horror of it. It felt a bit like it was taking up too much time, is what I would say.